records everything. There we go. Or we could just do it the old-fashioned way.
Hi, it's Double1975 and welcome to Elite Dangerous on console. So we got back to doing what we do best on this tour, which is shooting each other. Me and Scooby had our 1v1 in Corvettes at the Great Annihilator. We have run this fight before and Scooby won, and I didn't expect the result to be any different. My Cannon Vet is not very good in 1v1s because it has a slight problem with ammo. I tend to run out of ammo before the fight is over, and it's down to getting the reloads off, and I'm terrible at getting reloads off. I'm also still terrible at getting banks off, but I got a few banks off in this one. I then totally wrecked my shields by going 1-for-1 for a while trying to get reloads off, and annoyingly I got 3 reloads off in this fight, but unfortunately I reloaded my railgun twice by accident. I kept clicking on the wrong thing. I haven't had a fight in a while, so I'm going to blame rust and being rubbish on those are the reasons why I didn't succeed in this fight. You know, but we just decided to do this for a bit of fun, and it was nice to fight right by the black hole, and it just made a cool background. It's something you don't do every day, so you know, a good fight at the Great Annihilator was fun. Now you're looking at the runtime of this video and thinking, how can you talk about this fight for that long? Well, luckily while I was out here I got some salt, so I'm going to talk about a personal update first, then get into the salt levels. So on a personal front, I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep up doing a video a day because there's big changes in my working life going on at the moment, and I might be working some overtime, etc. But I still will try and do as many videos as I can a week. I didn't think I'd win this fight because I'm handing Scooby 17 point something bonus to his laser weapons because my shields are pure megajoules with rubbish resistances. I did it as a troll build to get over 9,000 shields, but it was a dumb move in terms of actual usefulness. The shields suck against people with pulses and beam lasers, so that's a bit of a problem. Now, I managed somehow to get embroiled in an argument about combat loggers while up in the core with Scooby, so I'll just have to say...
Oh shit, here we go again.
Now, to give it some context, I'm not one for masses of Discord. I'm not that active on Discord. I very rarely go on there. If someone asks me, I tend to go on and have a look at what they want and then decide whether I want to get involved, and I quite often get summoned into arguments when it comes to combat logging or stuff related to combat logging because I have that video playlist that I do of cheats, and I tend to spend a lot of time doing videos about people combat logging people. See, I reloaded the wrong thing there. It was just dumb. I don't know why I reloaded my railgun. Anyway, so Starro, got into an argument regarding people doing BGS in solo and some double standards about combat logging. This came about because he'd seen some stuff that had been like a little double standardsy, and he'd got into a little bit of a discussion. Talked about it on Facebook. He put a lot of stuff up on the Facebook Uncut page calling out this double standards. And interestingly, not so long ago on Discord, I got involved, only briefly. Somebody had to go at somebody for being a combat logger, and I was like, well, aren't you a combat logger as well? I don't mean any disrespect, but if you're gonna have a go at someone for combat logging, then maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should either be honest and say, like, I know I've done it, but they've also done it, or or leave it be. Because one of the things I've always been conscious of when you do videos exposing cheats, you have to be whiter than white when it comes to fair play and not cheating. I remember back in the Call of Duty days, it was literally like, there were several achievements that I never bothered to get because it wasn't worth it. And one of the reasons why I never went for diamond guns was it was basically I was having a go at people for boosting for headshots to get diamond camo, so it didn't make any sense for myself to spend all that time grinding out diamond camo. It was literally like, you know, anyone could see my account. I had like 97 days played and didn't bother getting diamond. But this was the description of a recent video where somebody called out a combat logger, and they said that they, you know, the person's also their squadron plays dirty, uses private group power play, and blocks members. What a surprise! IED making inferences that people had blocked them. I know I got accused of having every single member of IED blocked repeatedly on Facebook by certain members of IED, even though I've never blocked anyone but one person, and I blocked that person after it left IED. So kind of weird, but you know, you get this sort of stuff. There's usually some saltiness around BGS, especially in private group. Now when it comes to arguments like this, I like to throw out facts only. So I had no knowledge of the group being discussed. I'd never met them, I'd never spoken to them, but I messaged the person Star was arguing with, and I just pointed out one thing, that the person who made the video calling out the people for being combat loggers was themselves a combat logger. So therefore I felt this was a bit of a double standard. You know, if you're going to call someone out for combat logging, like I said before, it's just a little bit of a double standard if you've also combat logged. It doesn't seem like fair criticism. I mean, if you're going to expose people for cheating, don't be a cheat. I think that's usually the standard that, you know, you go by. I've got no problem with him showing the evidence of somebody combat logging, but you know, the rhetoric in the description wasn't really that humble about the fact they'd also been a combat logger themselves. Now, I messaged the person because there was 2 points I wanted to clarify. One was there was an accusation that Star had done BGS in solo against IED, which I pointed out that during the IED 7th Legion War, Star was involved for 5 days. He only got involved for the PvP. He didn't do a single bit of BGS because he was way too lazy. He did do a lot of talking about BGS, but didn't actually really contribute to the BGS, and certainly didn't spend any time BGSing in solo or private group. I know the person's not going to believe me because they don't believe anything I ever say, but I have no reason to lie about this. I spent many months doing the BGS. Then I got this message saying that we were, you know, supporting combat loggers, or at least it seems Star seems to. And Star was of the same opinion with me. We weren't supporting combat loggers, and we had no interest in the combat logger in question. We were just pointing out the double standard. Star was especially amused by the, you know, BGS and solo, etc. You know, because Star shared many screenshots over a long time of people in solo or private group. Star was in one of the bigger private groups for IED until he's just been kicked out of it recently, and was able to monitor where and when members were and what they were doing. Members of that, I think it was 86 or 87 members of IED that you could monitor through that private group. And I mean, I was involved in instances during the IED war where there was a lot of accusations of IED doing things in private group. There was that time that me, Frodo, Pirates R Us were blockading a system, and Paul at War called a ceasefire, so we had to cease blockading the system and pull out of there. And as soon as the ceasefire got called, suddenly there were 8 people from IED in that system doing BGS who suddenly appeared in open. And they hadn't been in open beforehand and hadn't got past us at the start, but they suddenly appeared in system after the ceasefire. They were suddenly all in open, and it was very odd, you know, the fact they were not there, they weren't appearing online, they didn't appear to be in open, they hadn't seen any of us lot at the start. You know, it could have been instancing. However, it is kind of unlikely you'd miss 8 people coming in and out of the system. But anyway, I digress. I was once asked if I had any proof of IED members being in solo during the war, and we were like, well, we did send you an absolute bucket ton of screenshots, but we can't tell what people are doing. Also, there's very much fun with the fact it shows you're playing in solo when you're in multi-crew, which can always be a bone of contention and an argument. And to be honest, I never really cared about whether they did or didn't do things in open, private group, whatever. because it didn't really affect me. I did my bit in open because I play in open. And if I BGS someone or do power play, I do it all in open. But as to what other people do, well, that's up to them. You know, I'm not going to dictate how they play the game. I think it's unfair to play it in you know, private group or solo, but that's their decision, not mine. I can only make the decision for myself, and I do that. I do it, you know, I do my BGS in open, and I was taking an incredible risk flying around IED space in a Type 7 or my Type 6 with no weapons on a regular basis, and I didn't run into that many players for the entire time I was down there. However, I saw a fair few people that did do their BGS in open. I saw them, they saw me. So, you know, there were some people. But there were clearly other people that weren't. I even spoke to some people that weren't. Some members of IAD spoke to us and told us they weren't. They were doing it in private group and solo. So, you know, it seemed crazy, especially when we had people in their private group watching which system they were in and calling out if they were in open and private group, that IAD kept disputing that and still dispute that, you know. And I was like, well, I don't even know them. However, the person who's made the video is a combat logger, so pot kettle, you know. He asked me if I had proof. If I really have to go back that far and dig up the proof, I will do. But it happened under his old gamer tag when he was in a different player group years and years ago. Everyone knows about it. Scrubkiller used to have the clip, I think. I'm sure I've got the clip somewhere, but it's on one of my old PCs because it goes back that far. It was a long time ago under a gamer tag that no longer exists. But as far as I know, the person in question has always been, you know, honest about it and been a reformed logger. And part of IED's ethos and culture, which I respect, is the fact that they do give combat loggers a second chance. They do, you know, if you take your rebuy, blah blah blah, they'll let you have a second chance. My group, the Dark Marauders, you know, Pirate Orcs rules are Pirate Orcs rules, and his rule is any log for any reason ever, no. You know, and that kind of clash between us and IED, we've always been very strict on non-combat logging. We've never had an active DMPS member log, and you know, we don't allow combat loggers, and combat loggers go on our kill on sight list. So I do not know why a person from a group that allows loggers, that has loggers within their ranks, i.e., you know, reformed ones, but still has people who have logged in the past in their ranks, would criticize us for siding with loggers. It seems a bit weird. We, you know, agree with it or disagree with it. Pirate Orc's views on combat logging are some of the harshest in the game, and his player group is run in his style. I personally do quite like the whole redemption arc, and I have repeatedly said, in fact, the person in question who made the video, I've always used, you know, when speaking to people, as one of the best examples of a reformed combat logger. Somebody I would trust 100% not to log now, though I know they've logged in the past. And it was so long ago, nobody cares. Which is why I've not included their name, because nobody cares that person combat logged. It was so long ago, it was under a different gamer tag. You know, let it lie, I don't care monkeys. You know, I've fought that person so many times, and you know, it does not bother me that they logged a long time ago. But if you're going to do YouTube videos where you call someone out as a combat logger, as a reformed combat logger yourself, it's a little bit, you know, just maybe tone down the rhetoric a little bit, or make it a little more appropriate. That was our criticism. It was the double standards we were talking about. We weren't coming out in defense of anyone. We weren't saying, you know, that, because in the video clearly shows a log, and if the person shown in the video doesn't believe it was log, or the leader of that squadron doesn't believe it was log, it definitely was. You know, so I said I was at SAG A, laughing, and he was saying that Star is trying to help 227th Combat Logging Regiment, and it's like, we weren't. and Star's definitely not doing any BGS for a Fed faction down that are fighting down there at the moment. Certainly that's not something he's doing, that's not something he had any interest in. He was just merely poking holes in the double standards, which is also what I did. Because it is a bit odd, IED, like saying, oh, DMPS now supporting loggers. Well, no. We don't even know them, we're just saying it's a bit of a double standard. You can see at this point I'm really struggling to try and get that reload off, and yeah, Scooby knew this, and Scooby's very good at stopping me getting reloaded. He's not going to let me get away with it. You know, I did manage to get 3 reloads off, but unfortunately I reloaded my railgun twice, which is just stupid. Had I managed to get my 2 huge cannons back online, I got one of them back online. Had I got the other one back online, and then maybe the medium or the large, I might have stood a chance. Because, to be honest, I did better in this fight than I did in the first time round that we did. So I'm quite chuffed with that. But it was a struggle for me. It always is, because I didn't build this ship to do 1v1s at PvP. I have specialised banks, so they take forever to spool up. They're really easy to cancel. Specialised boss cell, I should say, which takes ages to spool up and blah blah blah. But when you've got 9,000 shields, it makes sense from, you know, for most of the activities I do in this. And if I am in a wing fight, this ship's still quite useful. You know, with its dispersal field and cannons, it can be fun, and also I can shoot people at people and do silly stuff like that. The one thing I can't do is get damn reloads off with Scooby right up my jacksie. So yeah, it was annoying to say the least, fighting against Scooby. It's just so close. I got to start going through the module page, not using the synthesis page, because it is quicker on the module page. But it's an old force of habit. On my old Xbox, that page used to freeze and lock up, and I'd get stuck in there and I couldn't even move my head. So I've got to try it now on the new Xbox, because it will be quicker if I go through modules rather than the synthesis menu. But you know, it's the way it goes. I hadn't had a fight in this thing in ages, and I didn't do particularly well, but I did better than I expected, and my ship's not really designed for this. But anyway, yeah, back to the Assault. So yeah, I just found it really funny that IED would have a go at a group for doing BGS and solo on private group, have a go at them for having combat loggers, when IED have combat loggers in their group, and have had a reputation and a history of doing things in solo and private group in the past, or at least accusations thrown at them for doing things in solo and private group. I myself have seen things that would make me believe some of their commanders did stuff in private group at some stages. I just thought the whole thing was a little bit of a double standard, and that's all I was saying was, you know, it was a little bit of a double standard, and suddenly that's getting twisted into we're now supporting combat loggers. So I'm like saying, not mad at him, just maybe loggers gunning for loggers is funny. And he said, yeah, okay, keep finding excuses to support combat loggers out into a hood night. And I was like, I'm not supporting anyone not involved, claim whatever you want, laughing face. Here I am at Sanchez having a 1v1 in Corvettes. I'm nowhere near the bubble. I have no interest in diving into a Fed v Imp fight that IED are having with some group I've never even heard of and I don't even know any members of. So I have no idea what he's on about. And as for DMPS or myself supporting combat loggers, yeah, I think kind of you're barking up the wrong tree. I've always made videos exposing combat loggers, and the Dark Marauders don't allow any combat loggers in our ranks and make combat loggers kill on sight. No, neither me nor the Dark Marauders have a history of supporting combat loggers. IED, on the other hand, have had multiple combat loggers in their ranks. I think I can think of 4 videos on my channel exposing IED members combat logging. You know, they've also got a history of accepting ex-loggers, which is, like I say, I've got no issue with. I'm fine with their whole redemption arc for combat loggers. In fact, I've commented on many times how, you know, I quite like the way they do that. I mean, I did just think the double standard was funny, and I did just think the trying to twist after you get called out for a double standard into making out that we're the ones doing something or supporting something was hilarious. Properly funny. I mean, I have not been in the bubble for a while now. I've been on this trip for a long time. I never even heard of this group until I saw the video. I did find it funny that the video had the comments switched off, which I did do a post about on our Discord, because I thought that was hilarious, because I think the person in question would have known that I would have been straight in there going, well, isn't this funny, a combat logger calling a combat logger a combat logger? Which is pretty much what I did when there was an argument on Discord not so long ago. I you know, somebody was having a go at somebody, and I just said, like, I no disrespect, but you know, when you're known as a combat logger, it's a bit off when you're going at someone else calling them a combat logger. You know, if you're going to make accusations of combat logging, bring proof. Now, the clip that the person put on YouTube, I've got no problem with. It's definitely showing evidence of a combat log. You know, their stance to then take it to the leader of that group, and then if the leader of that group doesn't acknowledge it or doesn't know anything, then or do anything, then that is a problem with that group. However, I am not in any way, shape or form supporting that group, or in any way, shape or form getting involved in this situation, other than going to point out there's a slight double standard. And that's it. That's the end of my involvement. I just thought it was humorously amusing double standards, and like I say, if you're going to moan at people for doing BGS in private group or solo, maybe you want to be impeachable on that front as well. Because again, you're going to get called out for double standards if you're not, and with IED's history, it's kind of, you know, one of those ones. I know they've always said that they definitely don't do anything in private group or solo, no BGS, no stuff like that. However, I've been involved in instances where, you know, I thought they were doing stuff in private group or solo, and they've also allied themselves in the past with private groups, which is a genius move, because then you can say, oh, we don't do anything in private group or solo, while your allies who are private groups do all the work in private group or solo. So that was quite funny. During the IED 7th Legion War, they had multiple allies who are private group only BGS groups. It's like, well, you know, you're moaning that you're getting criticised for doing stuff in private group. What, so these guys are doing all their stuff in open as well? One of them was the Pixel Bandits, which, as we know, if you see a Pixel Bandit in open, it's a unicorn sighting. Sorry, Wiggy, if you are watching. But Pixel Bandit Security Force, I mean, I remember when the days of they were under attack in Netto, when I was over there with EXO trying to help them out. You know, I remember the last days of Pixel Bandits being an open squad. It was rough on them, but you know, things happened, things changed, and they became a private group, and they do their BGS in private group. And I've got, you know, I don't like it, but each to their own. It's your choice, your decision. But like I say, if you complain about the people doing stuff, then it's a bit hypocritical if you also do that stuff. You know, so if you are a combat logger, you know, think about that before you start throwing shade at someone for being a combat logger. If you know, do BGS or power play in solo, or have members that have done it, or you ally with people that do it, maybe be a little less condemning with doing videos and posts condemning people for doing it. That's all I'm saying. And I always love the idea of this thing about claiming that everyone's got them blocked. I would love to see them provide the evidence of this, but considering the accusations they've leveled at me over the years that they've not provided any evidence for, I would be surprised if they actually come up with evidence for pretty much anything. But you know, I agree, the video that I saw showed a combat log. Was definitely a combat log. I'm not defending what the person did. I'm just pointing out a minor double standard that if you're a logger, maybe it's a bit weird. You know, but that's pretty much it for this video. I had a fun fight with Scooby. I kept reloading the wrong weapon, and handing him that much damage buff does help him out a bit too much. That's all. Thank you very much for watching.